When the masks drop, time is already running out. At 43,000 feet, your brain can run out of oxygen in seconds. First comes the confusion. Passengers rub their ears. Someone suddenly takes a deeper breath. Another passenger yawns again without realizing why. A flight attendant notices it immediately. And that's what makes decompression so dangerous. You usually can't see it. You can't smell it. Sometimes, you barely even notice it. But meanwhile, the aircraft may already be slowly losing cabin pressure. Outside that cabin, the air is far too thin for humans to survive. That's why the aircraft is constantly pressurized during flight. Most passengers imagine decompression as a violent Hollywood moment, and sometimes it is. A loud bang, a sudden rush of air, white mist shooting through the cabin. The temperature drops instantly. Ears pop violently. Some passengers suddenly get stomach pain from expanding gases trapped inside the body. And while people are still trying to understand what just happened, the oxygen masks drop from the ceiling. But the most dangerous decompressions are often the slow ones. Because while passengers continue watching movies, scrolling through phones, drinking coffee, trying to sleep against the window, oxygen levels may already be falling. This is hypoxia, and the frightening part is that people often don't realize it's happening to them. Passengers become slower, confused. Some stop reacting normally altogether, and by the time people realize something is seriously wrong, the situation may already be dangerous. Then comes the moment every flight attendant recognizes instantly. The masks drop. And in that moment, every crew member hopes passengers actually paid attention to the safety briefing, because many people still don't realize the oxygen does not start flowing automatically. You need to pull the mask firmly toward you first to activate it. That's why we demonstrate the movement so clearly before every flight. Pull. Mask over nose and mouth. Breathe normally. Put on your own mask first, because at this altitude, losing consciousness can happen fast. And if a flight attendant suddenly sits down beside you instead of helping passengers, something is very wrong. Crew are trained to grab the nearest available seat immediately, even if it's next to a passenger, because during decompression, crew also may only have seconds to secure themselves. Only the senior cabin crew member returns to a crew station, not only to inform the cockpit that the oxygen masks have deployed, but also to make sure the pilots already have their oxygen masks on themselves. Because at this altitude, there is absolutely no time. The fastest way for crew to move through the cabin during decompression is by using the spare oxygen masks available in every row. In aviation, we call this the rubber jungle. Meanwhile, inside the cockpit, everything changes instantly. Warning alarms, cabin altitude warnings, oxygen masks over the pilots' faces within seconds. There's no discussion first, no time to fully understand the problem. At this altitude, delay can become deadly. One pilot flies the aircraft. The other races through emergency checklists as fast as possible. And while passengers are still staring at the oxygen masks in confusion, the pilots are already forcing the aircraft down, fast. The nose drops aggressively. Speed builds rapidly. Loose items can shift. Passengers feel the aircraft accelerating downward, and to people in the cabin, it can feel like the aircraft is falling out of the sky. But the pilots are not losing control. They're racing against altitude, because at this altitude, survival depends on getting lower fast. To passengers, it can feel like the aircraft is suddenly dropping from the sky. Seatbelts locked, heads down, oxygen masks on. Loose items shift through the cabin. Some passengers grab the armrests. Others freeze completely. And while panic slowly starts spreading in the cabin, the aircraft is still descending aggressively. Fast. Because during decompression, every second at altitude matters. Then, almost as suddenly as it started, the aircraft levels off, the descent stops, the cabin becomes quieter again. And strangely enough, that's usually the moment passengers think the danger is over. But crew immediately start checking the cabin, because some passengers may still be disoriented. Others may still need oxygen. Not everybody reacts to hypoxia the same way. Some passengers are already opening their laptops again, putting headphones back on, returning to movies, never fully realizing how serious the situation actually was. Situations like this are exactly why aviation training never stops. Because at cruising altitude, the only thing separating passengers from unconsciousness is a thin layer of pressurized air inside that aircraft. And most people on board never truly realize how fragile that really is. One pressure failure, one rapid decompression, and suddenly, you're on your own. That's exactly why we keep repeating the safety briefing before every flight. Not because aviation is unsafe, but because at 43,000 feet, seconds matter. With more than 20 years in aviation, I help passengers understand the moments they normally never see. So if you want more real aviation stories, safety insights, and things passengers are rarely told, please like, subscribe, and follow Cabin Confidential.